The average Formula One career by today's standards is probably along the lines of winning Formula 2, getting a drive with a lower team for 1 or 2 years, getting a top seat, sinking or swimming, eventually getting washed up and hanging up the overalls. However, not all Formula One careers follow such a linear path. Some careers are rather unorthodox, starting where fans would least expect it, graduating from a series other than Formula 2 or Formula 3. Some careers are as long as a season, others last decades. The bottom line is, some drivers had Formula 1 careers that didn't follow the everyday route or tradition. There are drivers of the past like Michael Andretti or Brendan Hartley that might be able to relate, but to me, one man whose career embodies this very well is Pedro de la Rosa's. My name is 1ntern, I talk wheel, and this is Pedro de la Rosa's peculiar F1 career. Pedro de la Rosa was born in 1971 in Barcelona. Similar to Lewis Hamilton, his first start in racing came in the form of remote-controlled cars. He drove off-road RCs and won 3 domestic titles in Spain and went on to win the European off-road RC titles in 1984 and 1985. As it regards putting his hands on the wheel though, Pedro wouldn't get into karting until the age of 17. The same age Max Verstappen made his Formula 1 debut. After dabbling in British Formula Ford and Spanish Formula Renault, Pedro would take his talents to Japan in 1995, winning the Japanese Formula 3 title that year and scoring a podium at the Macau Grand Prix. 1 year later, he competed in both Super Formula, which at the time was known as Formula Nippon, and Super GT, which at the time was known as the All Japan GT Championship, finishing 8th in both series before winning both titles just 1 year later. This earned him a drive at Jordan, the Jordan F1 team in 1998, where he served as a test driver. The year after, however, he signed full-time as a driver for Arrows in 1999. De La Rosa immediately impressed, finishing 6th and scoring a point for Arrows on his Formula 1 debut at the fresh young age of 28. And almost scoring a podium for the team in that year's Austrian Grand Prix before retiring near the end with an engine failure. He remained with Arrows in 2000, going from having Toranosuke Takagi as a teammate to Jos Verstappen. A pair of 6th place finishes at Hockenheim and Nürburgring saw him score 2 points that year, 3 less than his teammate. He moved to Jaguar in 2001 and 2002, scoring 3 points in year 1 and none in year 2. Year 3 never came, however, despite being on his contract, as Jag bought out his contract and replaced him with Antonio Pizzonia for 2003. 1ntern, this is seeming like a pretty normal career here. Where are you going? Just let me finish, all right? We're almost there, okay? Good. Now, this is where Pedro's career takes a significant turn. He signed with McLaren in 2003. No, not as a full-time driver, but as a test driver. He tested for the team from 2003 to 2009, but opportunities came for him between these years to get back on the track and race. After Juan Pablo Montoya sustained a shoulder injury in the early parts of the 2005 season, Pedro was given the green light to replace him for the Bahrain Grand Prix, as the reserve driver Alex Wurz was too tall to fit in the car at such a short notice. He qualified 8th, shockingly ahead of teammate Kimi Raikkonen. He finished the race 5th behind Raikkonen in 3rd, but set a fastest lap of 1:31.447, a lap record that still stands to this day. He was replaced by Alex Wurz until Montoya came back, but however, in 2006, when Montoya had enough of F1 and called it a day mid-season, Pedro de la Rosa took over his McLaren for the last 8 races of 2006. The highlight of this short racing tenure saw Pedro score a brilliant P2 in a rain-soaked Hungarian Grand Prix after doing battle with 7-time champion Michael Schumacher. This ended up being his only podium in Formula 1 and the peak of his F1 career in general. The team signed Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso in 2007, and Pedro de la Rosa returned to testing and never raced competitively for McLaren again. His return to racing came with a one-year deal he signed with Sauber in 2010. He had 1 points finish that year, a P7 in Hungary, and was replaced by Nick Heidfeld near the end of that season. He became Pirelli's official test driver in 2011 and briefly returned to McLaren to test for them. He also substituted at Sauber for Sergio Perez after he sat out the Canadian Grand Prix. De La Rosa finished the race 12th. His last season in Formula One was spent with HRT, a backmarker team. He scored no points, and after the team folded in 2013, the 2012 Brazilian Grand Prix was his final start in F1. According to an interview, however, Pedro said that the plan with HRT was for him to race for them in 2012 and become the team principal for the team in 2013. However, after the team folded, those plans were called off. He signed with Ferrari in a testing role, and after this he went to Formula E, serving as the technical and sporting advisor for Techeetah, as well as being a Spanish announcer for Formula One. So what became of his career? Well, he became the only driver outside of Michael Schumacher to race in F1 in the 90s, 2000s, and 2010s. He scored a point on his debut for Arrows and almost scored them a podium as well. He holds the race lap record at the Bahrain Grand Prix. He scored a podium at the 2006 Hungarian Grand Prix, and despite having a career that saw the light of 3 different decades, he only scored 35 career points, which today is the equivalent of a race win and a 5th place finish. Quite a peculiar career if you ask me, but it's one packed with many experiences on and off the track. Pedro de la Rosa was one of those faces that was always around the paddock in some way, even today. Anyways, another day, another video, am I right? As always, my name is 1ntern, I talk wheel, and thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. This is 1ntern signing out.